Alright, look, I tried to be optimistic here. I tried to stay open to new things. I know Switch Sports didn't exactly look like what we all had in mind for the series' return with the Crayola crew and Spoko Squawks, but Nintendo should have known what they were getting themselves into when they decided to call it this and put it in the same lineage as these guys. I mean, they must have been pretty confident, right? They wouldn't just throw that on there to make the game more relevant to consumers. No, of course not. They wouldn't dare underestimate the value and legacy that the original series perpetuated, right? Ugh. After the first trailer was out, I made that infamous video where I expressed doubt about the new characters, the lack of sports variety, and the seemingly blatant unfinished launch. But ultimately, the game wasn't out, so I couldn't pass definitive judgment. Guess what I did all this weekend, though? Allow me to fulfill my end of this deal, Nintendo. Switch Sports is just kinda dry and empty. And I'm not saying the game is bad, yet. But coming from the older siblings who, yes, are automatically going to be compared with because Nintendo called it this, the gameplay just feels regressive. Let's start with the actual sports themselves. There are 6. Half as many as Resort, but hey, at least one more than the original sports, right? Well, the issue I addressed in the other video was that 3 of them act too similarly. One is kind of unoriginal, the other 2 looked fine, but they were by no means an exclusive experience. In other words, the sports lacked variety, and well, yeah. Tennis is unchanged, still easily my favorite sport and the most fun to play with others. The one thing I did find when playing this game is that you don't have nearly as much swinging window. It relies a lot more on precision of timing, which is great as far as authenticity. But does anybody remember this? Ah, the good old days. Not that I dislike the realistic style, it's a blessing and a curse. In one corner, the directional aiming is a lot better than on the Wii, but if a ball is far away, you have to lean, and by lean, I think the game expects you to do a full-on belly flop. Bowling also returns from the original, but oh god, the physics are just downright awful. Nintendo, did you put magnets in the gutters? No matter how straight and forward I throw this, it always goes rogue right before the end. Also, you are now stopped and forced to start over if you release the button. Like, we've been taught to do this for 15 years because that is what you do in Wii Sports, and that is what you do with an actual bowling ball. You let it go. Being forced to hold the button when you roll ends in a lot of moments like this. And something about this motion right here. I say this game feels strange. This just makes me feel uncomfortable. And yes, they turned the online into essentially a bowling battle royale. Like, really? You did this, but we couldn't get back 100 pin? Volleyball. Quick fact about me and volleyball. I hated this sport so much to the point that when we... And on the Switch, the controls were just straight up unresponsive for me. My friends who played felt the same way, particularly the block motion never seemed to want to work. The whole sport feels kind of like a timing rhythm game with what it expects you to do. Alright, I'm done with this IQ bullshit. We may as well get the last net game out of the way. Badminton. Badminton I enjoy a lot. It is the fastest racket sport in the world. When it comes to the Switch, it is the slowest ratchet sport in the game. That's not true. I couldn't resist. It's pretty fun. Compared with tennis, it has a lot more to do with motion than it does timing. And to prove this, I just waggled around constantly and the shuttlecock was automatically hit. Of course, this doesn't fly online. There's a lot of options into how you hit the cock, which is what makes this game strategic and fast, so ultimately I had to accept I'm just bad. And then Chambara, which I was really looking forward to coming back to, but I wasn't as crazy about the PvP as I was the side modes like Showdown, and well, we'll get to that. Chambara could use a lot of balancing, the motion controls can be finicky, there are times where I'll be guarding or striking the opponent's open spot and it doesn't register, and same for vice versa. I do wish it had a mode where only one type of sword could be used on each side. Now we finish with soccer, the worst gender reveal ever. Back during the trailer, everyone said that this just looked like a much slower Rocket League, and I wish this were Rocket League because I so badly want to kick the other players. That's one of the best things about that game. If you can't get to the ball, get to the player. The problem with soccer here is either that you run too slow or that the stadium is too big. If either of these were fixed, it would be much more intense, but no. You can literally hear the lack of action when playing this game. And of course, since it's Nintendo with 8 people online, the performance isn't great, which doesn't sound like a huge deal, but it's one of the biggest flaws about this game. When you turn the game on, you'll immediately notice how much of it is centered around online, and post-pandemic, post-Wii Sports Club, I love this as a feature, but not as the main feature. The only progression and way to unlock stuff is to play online, and the rewards switch out every couple of weeks, which give it the games as a service type of feeling. Even the pro leagues are locked to online, meaning that the single player is garbage. Yes, it's a game mostly designed around multiplayer, but Wii Sports had lots of fun single-player modes on top of a ranking system, and Resort only built on this. There is nothing like that in Switch Sports. If you play this game alone, almost all the value points toward online. Now, these sports mates, who I still really dislike by the way, their one redeeming factor is in their customization. Only there's next to nothing here, and there won't be for weeks. I don't want to call this trailer misleading, but the game is here, and this stuff isn't. Do you know what I'm going to say next? It's okay, because Nintendo can update it. They can make the rewards better, offer more like the animal skins everyone thought was so cool, and turn this into a whole Fortnite library. They can fix soccer and maybe even offer more modes that go past 2.5 minutes. They can add on to the sports variety and bring back golf, as they've already planned to do in fall. No more of this, Nintendo. I couldn't wait for Animal Crossing New Horizons, but then I had to wait even longer to get the full game. And now, Switch Sports, which I'm sure in the future will be a much better game. Maybe. It's not really structured for the same legacy that Wii Sports or Resort, games that are still being played after decades, were. Because if you can only unlock stuff online, what's going to happen when the servers are no longer supported? A dilemma that Wii Sports Club is actively facing, although I'm sure lots won't miss it. So all in all, Switch Sports is lacking in content. While it does achieve mixed results with the sports, they get old quick, even in the far too relied on global play. I imagine with time the game will become more interesting, more balanced, more full, all of that, but as of right now, chicken taco.